Are you sick about hearing about the core four? Well, how about the dynamic duo, Nylander and Berube? Nylander tied with McDavid in playoff scoring. Berube guiding them to a playoff poise they haven't seen in decades. Marty, Berube says there's no stage too big for Nylander. Is the coach blowing smoke, or is he 100% accurate?
He's 100% accurate. I think Willie Nylander is a Willie style, right? He likes the bigger the stage, the bigger the moments, the bigger he'll show up to play the game. And I know that the core four has been criticized in past playoffs, but you always have to look at individuals and what they've been able to do. And I feel like Willie Nylander has been able to separate himself from the core four in the fact that he always seems to show up when the stages are the biggest. Now, it is interesting that you mentioned a dynamic duo between Berube and Nylander, because it was Berube in Game 6 against the Ottawa Senators. Well, maybe it's not him specifically, but the coaching staff that had put Alex Nylander in the lineup and not Willie Nylander, and that kind of sparked everything for Willie to get going. So I think that maybe that mistake, not that it has to play into it, but I think that it's interesting that Willie's like, hey, I am not my brother, and I can definitely show you from now on that you will never mistake me for my brother Alex. Nothing against Alex, but you look at the way that William has been playing in Game 6 of the Ottawa series and now in Game 1 and 2. I think there's a clear difference, and I love that the coach keeps telling him he's in his zone. Don't even talk to him. I don't talk to him. He's in his zone, and there's a lot of numbers that you can look at that tell you that Willie Nylander is, in fact, in his zone.
To your point, I love how Berube said he just leaves Nylander alone. He's not even allowed to talk to him. 5 goals, 7 points in his last 3 games. I don't think there's really much he can say to him. What about the difference Berube himself has made on this team? Brad Marshian knows this team as well as anyone, and he said, obviously their coaching has changed. Their structure is very, very good right now. Again, is Marshian blowing smoke, or is he right about Berube?
No, he's right. I mean, we knew that all season long that the Toronto Maple Leafs had a defensive aspect to their game, that Craig Berube was going to bring some structure. And that's something that we saw with Berube in St. Louis in the past. And I think that he's always been really good about that. But what I think is the biggest difference right now when it comes to Craig Berube and the Toronto Maple Leafs is not only their defensive game, their ability to adjust in game to what the other teams is doing. And then maybe the biggest difference, and as we talked about Willie Nylander, is the fact that he inserted Max Pacioretty with Willie Nylander, and that has seemed to have made the biggest difference in the top 6 of the Toronto Maple Leafs, not just offensively, but defensively as well. So you add a veteran player, someone that has been a team captain, that has had some playoff experience, and you say, okay, I'm going to give you that responsibility. All of a sudden, it makes your depth and everybody kind of fit into a different space and in a better spot for everybody. You look at that line alone, and Willie Nylander, for example, he had 11 rush chances in the first 5 games of the Ottawa series. He now has 11 in the last 3 games. Like, that is where you got more speed. Your structure defensively lets you go on the attack and create more offensively. So, yes, I think Brad Marchand is sending flowers in the pot, and the vase is, we'll call it a vase or a vase, will come your way at some point. But I think there's a big difference in Marchand, and the Florida Panthers are recognizing that.
How about what the Leafs themselves are saying about the difference Berube has made? Marner says Berube brings intensity and calmness all in one, and they're trying to react off that. Everyone seems to be using the word calm, Marty. There's no panic, no highs, no lows. What makes his approach so much more effective than what they've had over the last few failed playoff runs?
Well, I think that every coach has a different way to communicate with players. And I like, personally, a coach that was intense, that would come in, kind of shake things up. But I do remember, so when I was traded to the Philadelphia Flyers, Craig Berube was an assistant coach on John Stevens' staff there when I got there. And when we called him chief, right? When he would talk to us, it would be in a very mild-mannered ways. And his voice was always one that you would listen to, that you would pay attention to, that would get you grounded. And I remember when he would go up to the boards and, give us drills in practice, it was always in a very, very comfortable and attentive type of ways. And the details as to which he spoke to. If it was a 2-on-1 drill, he really went through all the details of that drill. So we knew exactly what was going to be asked of us in that specific instance. Now, he was just an assistant coach, but I think he's taken that same approach to his head coaching, that it's very detail oriented, it's very calm. It's not just him. He wants the players to be calm, he wants his staff to be calm. It's in all aspects of the game. And I like that as a goaltender because it was always the old adage, it's never too high, never too low, stay consistent. I think a head coach that can stay consistent and really relay that message to the players, and they are staying consistent with controlling their emotions, even in big games like in the playoffs. I think everybody gets to perform at their best level by doing so.
Speaking of calm, no one's been more zen than Joseph Woll. Here's a guy who hadn't started in 3 weeks. He come in for the injured Stolars, then starts, holds the Panthers to 3 goals on 28 shots, and made some 10 bell saves when Florida was trying to tie the game. Marty, what's Woll shown you through what he's been able to do?
I was extremely impressed in game 2 about the way that Joseph Woll played. It's a tight game, right? He has to make that next save. He's looking at the other end. Sergei Bobrovsky, a Vezina Trophy winner, Stanley Cup winner. And he's not just going save to save with Bobrovsky. He's outplaying the guy at the other end and making the big saves. And I think that the biggest thing for me, it was quickness. When you haven't played in a while, the game comes really fast to you. And you sometimes fall behind. You're not as quick. You're not as quick to react. You're not as quick to read the play. You're not as quick to making the right movement and to get there and making the saves. But when I look at Joe Woll in this game, he was extremely quick. He was quick to read the play, knowing where the pass was going to be. He was quick to step up and get in the way where he was able to get a clear sight of the shot, not getting screened. But more importantly, he moves so well laterally. And again, his athleticism, that split save to his right, that's a huge save that he made in a huge moment. But I was impressed that he was able to get back to speed right away and be able to make the big save, not just the normal saves, the big saves that were able to give the Leafs that win. That is the number one thing for me. I've been a backup goalie, Gino. I have not played for 3 or 4 weeks at the time. When I got back into the game, all of a sudden, whoa, it's going really fast, and I can't keep up. That was not the case for Joe Woll.
Marty, before I let you go, I need a quick thought on the embellishment call on Evan Rodriguez. I hate breaking down individual officials' calls, but what's your take on this one?
I don't understand how that would be called embellishment. Anybody that gets it from behind and goes into the boards head first with contact, I mean, it just can't be embellishment. So I think they missed out on that one. And look, the referees are never going to be perfect. I personally thought that could have been, look for a 5-minute for boarding in the Scotty Lawton hit. So the official missed on that one. They have been really good in the playoffs so far. And you can kind of nitpick at some of the calls, but to call Evan Rodriguez on embellishment on this one, I think that is about a less than 1% chance that call will ever be made again.
We give the last word to Brad Marchand, who wrapped things up this way. He says the Leafs came ready to play in this round. Toronto is now just 2 wins away from their first conference final in 23 years.